Hey everybody, welcome back into our latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. And we got big news to report out of California, where Glasshouse Brands is now officially available to trade on Robinhood. This is big. One of America's largest cannabis producers just broke through one of the biggest barriers for retail investors. So today, we're breaking down why this is such a big deal, why Robinhood banned cannabis stocks for so long, and what this means for you, the investor, moving forward. So let's get into our latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. But first, a quick word from Morgan & Morgan. Hey everyone, there's a reason smart investors celebrate when their portfolio jumps 40% in a year, just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. Think about it. When you're investing, you want the right team in your corner. The same is true if you're injured in dealing with an insurance company, and that is where Morgan & Morgan comes into the equation. Why? Well, they've got more than 1,000 attorneys and over 100 offices nationwide, and they've been fighting for people for over 35 years, and their track record is hard to ignore. Let me explain a little bit further. Case in point, in Florida, a client was offered $350,000, but walked away with $12 million. In Pennsylvania, another client, they turned $650,000 offer into $26 million. That's a 40x return. So in total, Morgan & Morgan, they've recovered more than $25 billion for over 500,000 clients. So really, when you hire him, it's like bringing in a legal army that has your back. Because if you're injured due to someone else's negligence, you deserve to be paid. And let's be honest, not all law firms are created equal. But with Morgan & Morgan, their fee is free unless they win. You can start your claim right now by clicking the link in the description below or by scanning this QR code on your screen with your phone. At the end of the day, if you want what you deserve, make sure you go in with the right team by contacting Morgan & Morgan today. Now, let's get back to the rest of our video. All right, let's now get into the big news and how this happened and why it indeed matters for the cannabis industry, because this is a monumental moment. When we look back, for years, Robinhood, the go-to app for millions of retail traders, completely blocked U.S. cannabis stocks from trading. At the same time, you could buy tobacco, alcohol, even psychedelic companies, but not cannabis. And here's why. First, federal law. Cannabis, as we know, is still a Schedule I substance under the Controlled Substances Act. So that means every licensed cannabis operator in America technically violates federal law, even if they're legal under state rules. Again, a head scratcher. And then 2, banking and clearing restrictions. Robinhood depends on clearing houses and custodial banks, which most comply with federal regulations. Those partners didn't want exposure to companies that touch the plant. And then 3 is the OTC risk. Most cannabis stocks trade over the counter, not on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. So Robinhood historically has limited OTC access because of thin liquidity and weaker investor protections. And finally, we have compliance optics. After years of scrutiny over crypto and meme stocks, Robinhood wasn't looking to add another legal headache, and I can't blame them. So cannabis stocks stayed locked out until now. So let's segue into today and enter in Glasshouse Brands. They're a vertically integrated cannabis company that's based in California, one of the largest greenhouse operators in the U.S. They grow, manufacture, and sell through their pharmacy retail stores and wholesale network, and they trade under the ticker symbol GLASF on the OTCQX market. So this week, Robinhood quietly approved Glasshouse for trading, marking the first time a U.S. cannabis operator has appeared on the platform. It's about time. So that may sound small, but symbolically, it's massive. It means Robinhood's compliance team is now comfortable enough to let retail investors access at least one state-licensed cannabis company. And really, if you look at this even further, it's a signal. It's the door to mainstream access and how it's starting to open up. And this is a good thing for the cannabis industry. So let's break down why this is indeed important for you, the investor. First is the accessibility. Millions of users who trade only on Robinhood can now buy a U.S. cannabis stock directly, not OTC brokers, no workarounds. So that's a big step towards market visibility. Second is liquidity. So more access means more volume and potentially tighter spreads, something this sector has lacked for years. And 3 is legitimacy. For years, mainstream platforms treated cannabis as off limits, but by approving Glasshouse, Robinhood is signaling the industry is maturing and becoming investable. And finally, we have the domino effect. If things go smoothly, it's hard to imagine Robinhood stopping here. Companies like Trulieve, Cresco, Verano, GTI, that could be next if they meet compliance compliance standards. But investors should stay realistic. This doesn't mean Robinhood has gone all in on cannabis. It's a careful trial run, not really opening the floodgates completely. But regardless, for many in the cannabis space, they'll take it. So really, what should investors expect now that Glasshouse trades on Robinhood? First is volatility. Retail trading brings energy, but also swings. Expect spikes in volume when news hits and equally sharp pullbacks, something this industry has been notorious for. We also have increased exposure. The simple fact that millions of users now see Glasshouse on their app drives curiosity, and that awareness definitely benefits the whole sector. Then you also have incremental change. Robinhood won't list every U.S. operator overnight. They'll monitor performance, liquidity, and regulatory feedback before expanding. And finally, we have momentum for reform. That's the big one. So this moment lines up with national conversations about rescheduling cannabis to Schedule 3, a move that would lower risk for financial institutions and trading platforms. And if that indeed happens, Robinhood's pilot could turn into a full-scale rollout. All in all, we're moving forward. So to really appreciate how big this is, remember where we were a few years ago. Back then, the idea of a California cannabis company being tradable on Robinhood would have sounded impossible. Federal law was strict, banks avoided the space, and let's face it, the stigma was indeed real. But the legalization has definitely outpaced Washington. Right now, we have 41 states now with medical cannabis, 24 have legalized adult use, and public support sits above 70% nationwide. Meanwhile, platforms like Robinhood have grown comfortable handling higher risk assets. Case example is crypto to options trading. So adding a state-licensed cannabis company from the 5th largest economy in the world isn't reckless anymore, not in 2025. And let's face it, it's long overdue. So what are some of the market implications? Well, let's look at the bigger picture here. If Glasshouse attracts meaningful volume, it'll prove what cannabis investors have argued for years. Accessibility drives adoption. So really, that could bring in new money, not just from retail traders, but from small funds and family offices that use Robinhood's infrastructure. And also, it could boost ETFs like MSOS, which depend heavily on retail sentiment and capital inflows. So in short, Glasshouse's appearance on Robinhood could act as a sentiment catalyst, giving investors a fresh reason to pay attention to cannabis stocks after years of frustration. In a lot of ways, this is a turning point for this industry. So really, here is the takeaways here today. 1, Glasshouse's listing is a breakthrough. It's the first time a U.S. cannabis operator has cleared Robinhood's internal risk filters. 2, it's a test run, okay? Robinhood wants to see how the market reacts before expanding access. And 3, it's a signal of normalization. Cannabis, as we know, is moving from fringe to mainstream, not just in policy, but now in capital markets. So from dispensaries and cultivation to Wall Street and trading apps, the financial infrastructure of this industry is finally catching up with public acceptance. Yes. So this isn't just a win for one company, it's a sign that U.S. cannabis investing is definitely maturing. And a shout out to all the original OGs of this industry for hanging on this long. This could be a turning point. So really, that's where things stand. Glasshouse Brands is live on Robinhood, and it's a milestone for U.S. cannabis investors. The question now is, does this spark a wave of new listings, or is it a one-off test? And with that, drop your comments below. Love to get your feedback on what you think this announcement means for the cannabis space, and really also for a lot of Glasshouse investors. And could we see more companies listed on Robinhood? Love to get your feedback, so again, leave your comments below. This has been the latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Make sure to like, subscribe, and smash on that bell for all notifications. We'd appreciate it here at the TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. That's it for now. We'll see you in the next video. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and thanks again for watching.